So I had surgery in 2019, open heart surgery. Not a fun surgery to go through, by the way. And we went to initially when I started feeling that, I felt a little uncomfortable and some numbness going across my shoulders.
After you had had a heart attack 8 years prior.
That's right. In 2011, I had my heart attack and had stints at that time. But in 2019, like I said, I felt a little odd and some numbness. And, of course, you were always good at immediately taking me somewhere to just check it out. And so we went about 5 minutes from our house to a smaller hospital.
That they built just for us because it wasn't.
Of course,
there when
yeah.
you had your heart attack.
And at that hospital, of course, I stayed 2 nights.
Couple nights.
Yeah. Where they did evaluation, they figured out I had some more blockage that needed to be taken care of. And so had one room there. And in that room, you get, I use the fact. I got
Was it that hospital that you had that? I thought it was.
No, just bear with me here. When you're in a hospital room like that, you get all the bucket and the pail with the water and yes. And on that, in that room, all my stuff was marked Grodoff D, which is our last name is Grodoff, and mine is, of course, is Don. So I had to go down to the main hospital downtown.
Same hospital system.
So yeah, thank you. And in first room I went into, all my stuff was marked properly with Grodoff D, all the buckets and all that. Went through the surgery, and then I went through a 24-hour recovery room, which didn't have all that stuff in it. It was a group room with a bunch of people in it, which was interesting to be in. And then moved to a final room, which was my final recovery room. And in that particular room, all my toiletry items, the buckets and all that, they were marked with Grodoff H. Now I looked at it and was kind of confused about it when I was in there, but I was kind of in a rough place, I guess. They're not paying, but I did ask him at the time. I said, am I registered correctly here? And she looked it up and she said, no, you're registered under Don. And she looked at those stuff and she said, I don't know how that happened. I don't know. So it didn't really, again, it did not dawn on me at the time, but when we were coming home, I remember you were carrying the bucket with some stuff inside of it. And as you walked through the door, you went, oh my God, Don, your dad was there. And I looked at the bucket. My dad's name was Harold. And it had Grodoff H. And I remember starting to cry and just being kind of awed by it, because my dad died on preparation for the same surgery back in 1976. So, and of course, surgeries back then weren't I don't think as well developed as they were now. Yeah, I didn't have it. He was like I say, in prep for it when he passed away. And that just kind of sent some shockwaves through me, I guess, in a way, because, you said he was there helping me out, which I believe wholeheartedly that's what happened. He was watching over it to make sure I made it through that surgery that he didn't have the chance to. And, we also joked, of course, when they do that surgery, they cut down and split my ribs open. I mean, the stuff they do to me, I was glad I was out for it, because it wasn't. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But you did not.
Well, and the really tough part of it, that waking up from that surgery was probably the hardest part of it, because I remember telling the nurse, and I told the doctor, my last memory of my father was with him having that intubator stuck in his mouth, like I say, in preparation. They were trying to work with him. and him trying to mouth to us that he loved us. You could see it in what he was doing, but you couldn't hear it. That was my last memory of my father, because we had to step out of the room because he coded at that point. And I told the doctor, I said, I really don't want to wake up with that thing in my mouth. But unfortunately, there's no way around that, apparently, because you have to
They
be
sedate you to do the surgery, and
and
they slowly wake you up. And so it's this.
well, I had to be fully awake in order for to remove it. And so I woke up with that in my mouth and panicked. And then I remember you standing over me going, saying something. I can't remember. And my mind was going through a lot of other words besides that. Yeah. And I think all I could get out was excruciating, because it was just and they were able then to give me I think morphine at the time, and that brought me.
But to get you awake, they had to wean them down.
Yeah.
So it was this balance of
waking
you up.
Oh my
without
God.
too much pain, but
because the rest of it, I slept through everything. I didn't feel anything, and before
a lot better. But that was that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But it just it helped me to understand that I could still connect with the people that have passed before, and that they are there in some way, shape, or form. And it's just being in a place, emotionally, mentally, to connect with them. So hello, this is Don.
This is Gina with Focused Healthy Family. This is podcast number 77. And today it's a conversation with Don and Gina around the topic of we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And before we get into our conversation, we'll hear a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor is Q Sciences. I've been a representative for Q Sciences for over a year. I found this company through a friend and did some research and reading about these products. And I really liked what I found when I learned about them. The research and time that they've put into the quality of these products to be better absorbed into the body. Things like the vitamin D spray. Our youngest was on a capsule vitamin D, and yet vitamin D levels remained the same with follow-up checkups. And with the spray, it increased. Pretty strong. Almost double.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking her levels were maybe 20, and I want to say they went up to 47 or something around that range. And the sleep spray is another great one. It's got melatonin, 5-HTP, and I believe another herbal supplement in there. And because it's a spray, you spray it on your tongue, it gets absorbed more quickly into your body to be more effective to help you in the moment. We're using the B12 spray. We've used the vitamin C spray. They have a Q Max product, which is a multivitamin.
And they also have the CBD, different, a variety of different.
It's full spectrum oils. Yes. They even have a THC-free version. It comes in different flavors. There is a mushroom.
Oh yeah.
Armor. It's called Q Armor. It's a powder, and I get the chai flavor. Put it in my chai tea for a double chai drink.
So instead of, as they say, flushing your supplements down, the toilet or the drain, you want to get something like this that's fully absorbed. It's like flushing money down the toilet too, if you're not using a supplement that absorbs well and does well for your body. So that's what Q Science is really about. It's a good, well absorbed, high nutrient product.
They have multiple products. They have child specific products. They now also have some facial cream products. I've been using a night cream to minimize the effects of sunlight and stress and aging. on my skin. And they have a hemp lotion. That's also a wonderful product that we've tried. So check us out, learn more. You can find the link at our website.
www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can also go to focusedhealthyfamily.com/Q Sciences, the letter Q and Sciences.
With an S at the end.
With the S at the end, yes.
And we're back.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that story.
I like telling the story. It's sometimes hard to get through because it was such a mind-blowing experience.
And I don't remember that I said that to you, and at that moment you had that, because I remember thinking, our son Harrison, also H, was born in that hospital.
Yeah. So H has a big role.
Some years ago, because we were like, well, maybe because he was there in the system, but yet you had been in that hospital system from your prior.
Yeah.
You were there for your heart attack, so it wasn't that. So it was just interesting because actually, when you had your heart attack, you were on the 6th floor, which used to be the maternity floor. So that's the same floor that they remodeled this hospital a number of times. It's the same area where Harrison would have been born as where you were at.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reference to H there, I think, in different ways.
It's that the divine connection of everything. So what inspired this conversation today is my wonderful friend and EFT practitioner, Ruthi Cohen-Joyner, shares a Monday musing, she calls it, and I'm going to read what she actually shared here, and we will share in the show notes how you can find out more about Ruthi. Do you remember who you truly are? You are a divine being having a human experience. That divine part of you never leaves. It just is. Oh, but we forget. We forget and get bogged down in the drama here on the planet. And there's a lot of it. So how could we not get caught up in it, right? This week, I encourage you to connect back into who you truly are. Use your tools, dancing, dreaming, playing, meditating, etc., to tune back in. Then let your spark shine. Let yourself be seen. Be the divine human that you truly are. I just love how she puts that. And from Neale Donald Walsch, he would say in his books that we are human beings having a spirit. We're spiritual beings. We're not human beings.
Spiritual beings having a human
experience.
Yeah.
That we are more than our bodies. And that's something that we believe.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody shares different beliefs. So with this podcast, as with any, take what works for you and leave the rest.
And let us know too in comments. We would love to hear your side of it or your thoughts around it. It helps me, Neale Donald Walsch talks about, I always like his idea of how we come into this place, this physical place. And he talks about, when we're in the divine, when we're in the other divine one, whatever you call it, when you're not in physical, in other words. He talks about that when you're there, you're just everything, but you can't experience it, you can't feel it. I guess is and so he talks about you want to experience all the different possibilities and of emotions and whatever, and I think the example he uses, like you want to experience forgiveness, let's say, because you know it, but you can't sense it. And he says that you decide as that when you're ready to go into the physical place, that you decide that's what you want to experience or learn is forgiveness. And another spirit will jump up and say, I'll help you, and the other spirit says, I'll help you with this, but I want you to remember when we are in that physical place that I'm doing this because I love you. And so you get into the physical place and the other spirit joins you and does something that's maybe not the best thing that we think about, like murdering somebody, a loved one, or
forgiveness.
yes, so that you learn forgiveness. And it's rough to think about that. As a human, as the human part of this, it's rough to think about the that something bad is actually there for learning, for experiencing.
And we're taking it from our belief, which is that we exist before our bodies and we exist after, and we want to respect other people's beliefs. And that even without that belief, if you believe that there's more to your life than being in this body, that there's a divine connection, that there's
Heaven,
there's something,
things
whatever,
like that.
yeah, there's something else. And if you are atheist or of whatever belief, non-belief, we invite you to look at it from your perspective, and
Sure.
we'd like to kind of bounce that idea around. So we're going to share with our own experiences today as we're in the middle of packing up and moving, having some kind of candid conversations around different topics. And so in the context of parenting ourselves, our children, and our parents, and how this plays out in our everyday life, like the example that you shared with that beautiful story.
Yeah.
While you were in the hospital, I think it was the first time when you had your heart attack. I had so many moments of inspiration like that I felt this connection with you. Well, there were moments with you, but then also when my dad first went in the hospital and had back surgery, I had those same kind, and I tend to get connection through the radio.
Yeah.
And hearing songs. When my dad had his first back surgery, it might have been his second back surgery. Anyhow, with his Parkinson's, he's more sensitive to anesthesia medications, and they can more prone to cause hallucinations, delusions, which cause behavior agitation. And I got a call from the hospital or from my mom that he was flared up, getting agitated. They actually had to restrain him because he, having this delusion that some people are trying to hurt him. I remember it being early in the morning while it was still dark, and I like to flip through the radio station, and I heard "Take a Walk on the Wild Side." I got to remember all the songs. "Crazy Train," and there was one more, but I laughed out loud, just thinking about my dad and all that he was experiencing. After my dad calmed down later that same day, he was describing to me how he was in this place and he thought people were going to hurt him, and he could hear me laughing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, holy cow, I was laughing while you were going through that experience, thinking about you, hearing these songs that made me chuckle. And I've always had that kind of connection with my dad, and we both have similar beliefs like that. And I remember too with you that I remember going to the cafeteria where I went the first time you were in the hospital, 12, 16 days. It was a long time.
Yeah.
It was actually a tougher recovery from the heart attack than from the open heart surgery, because the heart attack was emergency and the open heart surgery was more planned. And going and hearing, I felt like I was connecting with your divine self, because you were kind of half in and half out of this world as you were recovering, and hearing a song and just feeling such a strong connection with you. I remember even, we had kids that were 2 and 9 and 13, and I was juggling, caring for them, nursing the youngest, having family members be there in the house so that I could wake up super early, like 4 or 5 in the morning, go at the hospital, be there all the way till like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And I remember even coming to the comforting feeling that we are so connected and we will always be connected. And somehow I came to a place of peace that even if you left this earth, that it was okay. In saying that, I don't even know how that I felt that at that time. That just feels
Well,
overwhelming even thinking about it.
I was angry when that was with the heart attack, and I wasn't angry at the with this latest thing, but the heart attack, I remember being very angry, and it was it kind of started out because I felt like I didn't have the movie experience, that a lot of movies of you go back and you see your relatives and they tell you not to go to the light and all that kind of
He went into full cardiac arrest. He was
blue.
almost clinically dead at some point. I mean, they literally brought him back.
Yeah.
And so
Well, it just I didn't have that kind of experience that I could remember anyway. I mean, I don't know. I may have done more than I imagined. So it was there was anger there, and it was hard to be around anybody's energy. I remember because you were you were beaming with energy. I mean, you were
I connected with Jan Luther, your EFT mentor, the first person I learned EFT with, and a couple other women that I had done a lot of workshops with, and people I had a real deep connection with. And I was reaching out to them and getting support that I needed, the emotional support. And I was on with Jan, and we were tapping in your room, and it was too much for you.
yeah
So I went, there was a hallway where they were remodeling. And so it was just a vacant hallway. And I remember I went, sat there and did tapping
yeah
with her because it was difficult. And but I reached out and I had that support to help me get through this, because I don't want to make it sound like I just was like, oh, the divine connection and this is so good. It was stressful. It was
yeah.
heart-wrenching. Is my husband going to be alive? Is he going to survive this? I have these young children. And so but I was able to tap into the support that I needed, which a lot of it, I mean, I also was able to reach out and ask friends to help out. And I learned to ask for help, and people were quick to jump in and help. But what I really needed for myself was that emotional connection, and people who had similar like-minded beliefs as far as spiritual beliefs. And having that was so powerful to me. So yeah, have all this energy around us. And I remember Jan even saying to me that it was probably too much for you.
Oh yeah, it was.
To you. And she described to me that she felt like you were kind of half in and half out of this world.
Yeah, maybe trying to decide in some way, shape, or form whether I was going to stay or go. I guess I don't know. It was tough. Yeah, it was hard being around any visitors. I remember you and I both kind of talked about it. I think we worked out that we were able to say to people, I really need to
keep it short.
Keep it short.
When recovering from something, you need time to recover. And just a conversation with people can be overwhelming.
Oh, everything wore me out.
The whole spiritual component,
Yeah.
We can set that aside. If that just the recovery process of you need to rest, and all those things are so important. And being around people and talking with people and having conversations can be exhausting.
Yeah.
As much as people who enjoy connecting with people, you got to take it in small doses, and people don't always understand that.
So you have
to, I had to kind of be the buffer for that. Like, yes, come visit, but, or, no, he's not ready for visits yet. And to kind of monitor that.
Well, I think that could be why that happened in the open heart surgery in 2019. Why I was more open to allowing like my dad or whatever to come through is because I was so angry at the first time that I think I allowed myself to be okay with whatever and more open, I guess.
Well, you call your heart attack your 2x4 to the side of the head.
Yeah.
I mean, I still showed up at the ER. The ambulance took you away. I didn't know if you were going to be alive or not when I got there, because your face was dark blue. And I was there outside the emergency department room. It was the glass windows. And I see the female doctor saying to you, they got you stabilized to go up to the cath lab, saying to you, you had a heart attack. And the look on your face was just like, what? You have a family history of it, but you don't smoke, you don't drink, You're not overweight by any sense. We were eating healthy at the time. You were exercising, like
It was stress related,
not
but
what you think of when
yeah.
you think of a heart attack. My anger was going to the cafeteria and seeing these heavy people and watching what they're eating. And I'm like, why did my husband have the heart attack? These people are out here, poor eating habits and, all these other things. And my, healthy husband is the one who had it. So I remember having a bit of kind of anger, and I ate really healthy. It was the best. I took care of myself because I was,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you would bring in smoothies to me.
Yeah. And I was sneaking you in some probiotics and other
Yeah.
things that get good, healthy stuff in you.
Well, and thank God for Dr. Smith too. He brought me a bunch of stuff in. He's a naturopathic doctor who I work with now, and
Some
supplements that really help.
Turned the corner with
Oh my
those.
gosh, yes.
Kangen water. I remember he walked out to the parking lot garage. She's like, I've got something I want to give you. And we walk out to the garage and he gives me bottles of Kangen water, and which is water that's been the acidity
pH levels are
have been balanced, and put it into my car, and it's just kind of that clandestine meeting in the dark parking garage to exchange water.
Yeah.
But you really did a turnaround, looking at embracing. And we had people who were nervous and anxious because we step outside of traditional medicine, traditional Western medicine.
Oh yeah.
And this was an opportunity to realize there's room for both. And yes, without Western medicine practices, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. No,
and yet the other philosophies, the nutrition, they really helped you too to get through this. And it's not one or the other, that sometimes we need medication in our body. I know that's something we have wanted to do, especially with our kids and their anxiety disorders. The last thing we wanted to do is dump pharmaceuticals into them. And yet there's a time and a place for things. And because what helps me at peace with it, as I fill up my daughter's pill case now with several different pharmaceuticals, is that we are more than our bodies. And if that's what my body needs right now is to take some medication, I am more than that. And sometimes it's like if you're watching what you eat and consuming, however you're following practices to get healthy or whatever, and you go to a party or something, you can bless that eating something enjoyable and not worry about what's in the food, that you can bless that as enjoyment for your body rather than beating yourself up and saying, oh my God, I'm going to eat this and then I'm going to go downhill and I'm going to get off my diet, or, blessing these different experiences.
Well, I think it goes to the idea of blessing what we classify as bad, blessing it as an experience that moves us forward.
Right. The good and bad are labels.
Yeah.
On things. And without the dark, you wouldn't experience the light.
Well, like you said, the 2x4 to the head of the heart attack turned me around, changed my path of where I'm. I wouldn't probably be doing the coaching and the EFT work that I'm doing today, and what we do together. I'd probably still be in sales or in web design, which
that path would have led. Yet
it was a turning point. It was a
big turning point for you, and apparently
a wake up call, or whatever you want to call it.
That was part of the journey of moving forward. And whether you believe that divinely we chose these things or not, it's what we choose to do with the experiences. It's the choices that we make with things that are going on around us. And
it's all about experiences, really. I mean, we learn by experiences. Our kids learn by experiences. And it's not coincidence. I don't believe. I think it's how we create through our spirituality, through our divineness. We create our lives versus just happen to be happening.
You go down a whole deep path with that, bringing it kind of back to families and raising children. Just reading over her quote again, getting caught up in the drama and the difficulties on earth is something that we can practice, and this can be so empowering for our children, is, okay, all this stuff's going on. All this, crap has happened. I'll keep it G-rated here. And
Uh,
how I respond to it. I get to decide how I respond to it. Looking at sentences like, you made me feel this. You caused me to experience
you
this.
make me feel like.
Not
Sorry.
exactly the sentiment of the statement I'm trying to make. But kind of blaming others,
Yeah.
blaming outside forces. Things happen to people all the time. We all have different experiences. We're all going to have different challenges. What you see on Facebook with this happy person's life, that's not the whole picture.
No.
And there are people who believe, oh, just terrible things happen to us. We don't have good luck. And everybody has different experiences. And the saying is, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. However you want to phrase that like gives me strength when I hear that, because it's like, okay, thinks I'm really strong.
Let's not go too far with that, though.
But our attitude makes a difference, because other people can't make us feel. Someone could say something mean and hurtful and terrible to us. We get to decide what to do with that, because that's really about them. I said this to middle child one time. I said, what other people think of you is none of your business. And like, that just really threw her. But I had heard that, and it's so true. When other people are accusing you of things, it's really all about them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying if someone's upset with you and sharing things, not being open to like, oh, okay, maybe I rethink, how I said that or phrased that, but getting wrapped up into this, you made me feel this way. We decide how we feel, and we have to take that power back, because if we are letting other people choose our feelings for us, we're giving our power away. We are letting other people take hold of our lives. And with anxiety and anxiety disorders, you can get caught up in that momentum of, oh my gosh, this is happening. These terrible things are going to happening. Oh, because this happened. For me personally, when things have been, I have this kind of belief that as long as I have more work to do here on earth, I'm not going to die. And so when things are going really well and smoothly, this little fear creeps up in me of, oh my God, if things are really great, that means my life could end. It's sort of my interesting fear on death. And it's something I've tapped on working with EFT practitioners and myself, and that I've journaled through and worked on over the years. It used to be a much more stronger fear of death. But that little thought will come up sometimes, like, don't be too proud. I'm sure there's different messages that I've heard growing up and that were around me that play into that a little bit. Our house is under contract, and we have a new house under contract, and it's going to free us of some debt and give us a fresh start, which I have been envisioning for a long time. And so there's that little voice that's like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
With all the financial struggles we've had over the years, I would see this pattern of I'd be having more hours at work, and it would be like, oh, we're going to pay off the debt and we'll have some extra, and then something would happen. And so we get trapped in those thoughts of, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then when you expect that, then you're putting the energy of that out there.
Well, I always tell my patients too, I believe very truly that we create from here as we focus, where we focus our thoughts, our actions too. I mean, this is not just a and it's done kind of thing. It's a thought that leads us to the right path to get what we desire.
We call it the law of attraction. Someone recently said something about what you believe, you receive. I mean, there's different perspectives on this in different religious traditions and non-religious beliefs even. And it's so powerful with our children as they are experiencing difficult emotions and things, to allow them to experience it. And I mean, I said that to my daughter was over 18 when I said that about what other people think of you is none of your business. And I can say that and share that with, a grown child. Yet it's something she's got to figure out on her own in some ways. But being a parent who believes in that and who demonstrates that in our life, we're sending that message to our kids, even when it looks like we're not. when, I look at my kids and go, all these beliefs I have, and why is my kid like think that thing terrible is happening to them, and realizing, well, that's their experience, and they've got to get through it in their own way. Everybody, you needed a 2x4 to your head. I don't know what I needed. I needed whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it's like all of our experiences are different, and it's what we're doing with it and how we're responding with it.
Well, it kind of brings me back to my thoughts about my dad. I looked at my dad, I was raised in a Catholic household, and very, very strong.
60s.
Yeah, very strong Catholic family. Now, my mother kind of wore her Catholicism out on her sleeve, and I'm not.
Typical of her generation.
Yeah, and I'm not downing that. My father, and I think his experiences are what led me to being more spiritual than, say, religious, because he just carried himself a different way. He didn't wear it out on his sleeve. He was always giving. He was one of the most giving persons I've ever known. And he went. I used to get a kick out of it. He would go to church every morning at the 6 o'clock mass, just about every morning, because he worked his what off.
Job.
Yes, and he would get off, and I think he got off sometime in early morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and he would, instead of coming home, he would go straight to the church those services were so tiny that they may have, well, just the fact that you didn't have many people there. In fact, he would actually be, if nobody showed up at all, it would be him and the priest. He would be the altar boy, and they had this really kind of, this may not sound right, but an intimate kind of mass or service.
Right.
And he never bragged about it. He did it silently. He'd come home and he'd have to go, he'd nap for a while, is what I call it, because he'd go, he had a daytime job too. But then giving to he was involved with so many different charitable things and things like that. He was always inviting people home during dinner, Thanksgiving or Christmas or any of those things. He would just think about these people and call them and say, hey, do you want to? He knew some of the people he knew didn't have families, that he would bring them home. And so he just carried himself in a very different way. And it actually showed at his funeral, at the wake. He was in one room, this pretty good sized room of the funeral home for his wake. They literally had to open a second room because he had that many people coming every night.
How old when he died?
He was 50. I want to say 52, but I think it might have been 55.
So he was a relatively young man.
Yeah. But he had influenced so many people with his experiences, not what he said, or he was not a prophetic kind of person, or but with what he did and how he touched people's lives. And I think that went beyond just being a human. I think that was a spiritual part of him that just reached out in connecting with people.
And if I can add an aside, although the presentation of their beliefs looked different in your mom and dad, obviously there was a connection there between them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm sure you romanticize your father more. You were 17 when he died, and your mother lived well into her 80s. So you had her around in your whole life. So there's a little bit more, romanticizing of it and seeing the more flaws in your mother than your father, just as a way of respecting everybody and
Well, and I think with my mom, and again, I think she was a spiritual person too. I think what with her, the loss of her young child, my sister, who died when she was 5, that really had a block on her. I think it really held her back some. Yeah.
I don't want to speak for her, and I just want to, respect everybody in different beliefs and the way it presents itself.
Yeah, no, she was a good person. It wasn't, I don't want to.
But the power of your father's connection, and because you were a teenager when he died, and at the time you want to share some, you weren't, when he died, you were kind of in a place of, dad doesn't know anything.
Well, yeah, because my dad was a handyman and maintenance, and so he was a very blue collar, very hard worker. I mean, I remember as a kid, his hands were so calloused and all. He literally would carve them with his knife.
He was a World War II veteran.
Yes,
He
and
served in World War II. He's of that generation.
such a good handyman. I mean, he had welding skills and all that kind of stuff. But I remember he wore these gray uniforms, and he had, I think, 4 or 5 of them.
Like a jumpsuit kind of thing?
No, it was a pants and a top, but they were gray. Variations of the gray too. So, but as a kid, I remember going, oh, it just bothered me because he would wear them during the day. He would wear them like if there was an event at church where he had like when we had school picnics, he would work the booths, like cooking booth or whatever. And he would wear these gray uniforms. And I used to think, oh my God, these people think that he never changes his clothes, and that he must stink or whatever. I don't know exactly what went through my head, but it was embarrassing. And he also, towards the last couple of years of his life, he had a lot of health issues, gastritis. He would get bloated, and it was so embarrassing because he would sit in the living room and he'd have to pop his button open and he'd be belching or burping, and it was just so embarrassing. So yeah, when he passed away, I was in not a rebellious mood, but just thinking my dad didn't know. I don't know. Didn't think that highly of him. I loved him, and he was a great dad. But I don't think I was thinking as highly of him, and I wasn't treating him very well. So I had a lot of regrets.
Yeah, it was difficult for you at the time. Just like even little things like he would shave your head. You were born in 1958. He's the youngest of 6 kids, right? So that's how they'd get a haircut.
Vitalis. Oh my God.
And when you were a teenager, you went to a hair salon, and you had your hair a little bit longer.
One that was split in the middle, which that drove him crazy. I can remember. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it wasn't the greatest thing he said to me. The first time I came home and my hair had split in the middle, and had been to a salon, which, and I think he said something like, "Oh, it looks like a girl," and I remember that, and I know he didn't. His intent was not terrible with it. It was just his thought.
These right.
Yeah, he was a dad that would call me my little good for nothing sometimes, out of love, but I'm sure I probably didn't take that well, or something. I don't know, but yeah. So
just sharing, so you have these experiences and the regret with your dad, and yet over time you came to a place of forgiving yourself, feeling that way about,
and really appreciating what he was and what he did, and again, the spiritual part of it and all of that.
And it can be more challenging to do while parents are still on earth. If we're talking about our aging parents.
Yeah, I know.
If they pass, then it's like, oh, you remember all the awesome and the wonderful things while they're still here, and you want to appreciate and have time with them. You can get wrapped up in things that annoy you. And there are families, in my extended family, where people don't talk to each other to the point of where they don't go to their funeral. And it's really, like, you can get annoyed and be mad with people, but
they're still you.
Them off, talking about brothers and sisters and close family members. And my parents are 80 and 81, and my mom's always been in good health. My dad is now struggling with his health, and we don't know how long they'll be here. I mean, my mom has done so many healthy things over the years, but caring for my dad is wearing on her, and just that reality of the preciousness of life, and the really limited time in the grand scheme of things, and wanting to make the most of it. and kind of, accepting people where they are. I guess where I'm going with this is, with our kids, with our loved ones, our parents, is accepting them where they are and not trying to fix things for them. But it's okay. You have this problem, but this means that this is the greater experience of it all. It's not about preaching this belief of we're more than our bodies, we're spiritual beings, and that even though these difficult experiences can have meaning, that's for us to figure out for our own selves and our own journey. And our kids, our parents, whoever, they each have to figure that out on their own, if that makes sense. It's allowing us all to have different experiences and saying, okay, this is who I am, and not expecting other people to be like, oh, that's the right way to be. I'm going to be like you too, Gina, right? I used to think, if everybody was more like me, this world would be a great place and there wouldn't be wars. And but could I live with a bunch of me's?
It's hard enough. No.
Sometimes I think I could live with a bunch of me's, but
I don't think I could live with a bunch of me's. I know that for I'd drive myself crazy. Well, I wanted just and to kind of wrap up as far as my dad, I just wanted to put this one thought out to kind of let people know. Dan Fogelberg does this song called Leader of the Band. It's about his own father, but there's a line in that really reminded me of my dad, and there's actually more than one, but the one was he uses this phrase, a thundering velvet hand. That was my dad. We really never got spanked or hit or anything like that. I mean, I think once or twice he or my mom may have popped me on the butt and said, stop that or something, but that was my dad. He could get mad at you, but he never took it out in any kind of physical form. And he was very gentle about how he did things. He didn't, he never encouraged fighting or anything like that. But anyway, I just wanted to leave that picture of my dad. That was him.
So I guess the big question is, who are you? Do you know who you are? Have you delved into the journey of who you are as a human being? There's different ways that you can do this and experience this as a family. There's different books you can read. Neale Donald Walsch has a great book if you have similar beliefs and want to delve into it further in a way of sharing a story with a kid. He wrote a book for children.
Yeah,
having conversations around these things. We'll have to do a podcast on some children's books that are kind of applicable to the things we're saying. There's the Snowman Named Just Bob.
Well, he does the
Little Soul in the Sun.
Little Soul Sun. Thank you.
This book is called The Little Soul in the Sun. There's another book called The Snowman Named Just Bob. I can't think of the author of that. There's the Snow Angel. There's a bunch of different stories that kind of really incorporate these kind of ideas, and just reading books like that with your kids and can help send that message and finding ways to have connections with them, whether it's going outside and do grounding together. I know when I hiked the mountains with my youngest and we brought our journals up there so we could sit over the beautiful view, and she, I didn't tell her what to write. She it's just giving her that opportunity to experience that, to find, her place of connection, to find what works for her.
Well, and I'm listening to you, and I'm not sure if you said this, but I think the first place to be is recognize it in yourself, recognizing your own spiritual being, your own, is the first place.
Mask on.
Yeah,
you can put those on those around you, and that. Kathy and Todd with Zen Parenting Radio, sort of our mentors, so to speak, in this wonderful podcast. And now I'm going to forget what I was saying. They have a tagline, and it's, the best predictor of a child's well-being is a parent's self-understanding. I'm paraphrasing it, but it's to that effect.
Yeah.
And that we've got it, when we work with families, you often do EFT first because you've got to deal with your own
baggage or your stuff. Yeah.
Before you can help empower your children. And so there's a balance of that. And that's why I use that term, parenting our children, our parents, and ourselves. That we got to take care of ourselves in order to take care of other people. And by taking care of ourselves, it sends a powerful message to those all around us.
Yeah. So that's our podcast for today. We hope you have enjoyed it. We would love to get your comments, your thoughts. Like Gina said at the beginning, if you have different thoughts around this, atheist, whatever it might be, we'd love to hear those too. We want to be open to all sides of this.
Interviewing people. And so if you want to come on the podcast, of someone, love to have those opportunities to have different interviews with different people along all these topics that we talk about. So let us know, reach out to us, send us a message.
And you can find out at our website, you can find out about our other workshops, our program, the coaching program we do for parents and kids. Also, we have Tuesday Tips, which every Tuesday we do a shorter podcast that gives an effective tip for parents. We also do it by email. You can find all of that at focushealthyfamily.com. And you can find us on Facebook. You can do an Instagram at gina.focusedhealthyfamily.
Read the blogs that I'm trying to
keep up.
Coincide with each podcast we did. Life has happened. And so I'm not up to date on that, but that's my intention. It's
hard enough just doing these sometimes, but
and I invite that opportunity.
And we'll have more
guest bloggers, so reach out, connect to us in any way that you'd like. And remember, how you speak to your children today shapes their future and yours.